Hey there! We are going to be doing some arm circles to wake up the shoulders. And during this time is a good time to connect to your breath. Make sure you're standing up tall, pulling through the spine. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see that these are small circles. My fingers are really open. And then we'll reverse, go the other way. I'm going pretty fast here, but if it feels better to go slow, feel free to go at your own pace. And then we're going to do a few really wide, full range of motion circles. I'm running into the ceiling fan here, so make sure you've got lots of space. So it's okay if you don't make a full circle with your arms going back behind you, but the goal is to just move through the full range of motion. So now I've switched directions. Exhale to push the hands forward, inhale to open back. You should start to feel pretty warm here. And so we'll be ready to start. We're going to be doing dumbbell rows, bicep curls, and overhead presses to start, all back to back. So I'm going to show you a single arm row first. If you are familiar with two arm rows, feel free to do that. You can put your hand or fist on a chair or box. You're going to keep your back flat. So roll the shoulder blades away from your ears and down. Separate your feet so you feel stable. Pull your core tight and make sure that you're starting with your shoulders aligned rather than dropping. We're going to pull the weight back towards the hip with an exhale. I'm holding it here for a second. You'll feel that squeeze in your lats, those muscles underneath your armpits. And then you inhale the weight back to a straight arm. Make sure that weight isn't pulling your shoulder down. So I'm coming back to this neutral position and then squeezing at the top. We're going for 10 reps here just to keep things simple. But if your weight is heavy or light, you can go with fewer or more reps if that feels good for you. I'm also showing it facing forward so you can see that I'm pulling my elbow really tight, pinching my side rather than having the elbow come away from the body. My feet are separated like railroad tracks, not tightrope walking. So I have lots of support, but the chair is there for me as well. And I'm keeping my chest proud, not letting my shoulders roll forward. Keep that breath flowing as you move. Once you've done about 10 reps, we're going to move on to our bicep curl. So you're going to have your palms facing open and roll the shoulders back, pull up tall through your spine, and then pinch your elbows to your side as you squeeze the weights up. They don't need to come all the way to your shoulders. If that doesn't feel good in your body, you just want to keep the elbows still and then squeeze your biceps as you're pulling the weights up towards your face. Again, we want to inhale on the way down to reset, exhale up. You can even hold it at the top for a little more intensity and then let it come down with control so you're not letting it fall. Then we've got some overhead presses. We're doing narrow overhead presses first. So elbows point down. As we push straight up overhead, we're letting the knuckles rotate towards each other and we're keeping the arms over the shoulders. So we're not letting the arms go out to the side. So if you look at the joints, you should have your hips and your elbows and your shoulders all kind of in the same line. As you're doing this, you want to exhale on the way up. Think about punching the ceiling and your head stays somewhat neutral. And up next, we have our 2-arm row. If you want to do a single arm, that's totally fine, but we're going to practice keeping the core tight as we exhale to squeeze those elbows back behind, keeping the chest proud. Notice how my gaze is neutral, so I'm looking straight ahead with my neck in line with the rest of my spine. So I'm looking sort of towards the corner of the room. We're going to exhale to squeeze, inhale forward, keeping the back nice and flat. Stay rooted in your feet. And then when you're done with your reps, we're going to move on to the bicep curl. So roll the shoulders back. We're going to pinch the elbows in tight. And you'll notice that I'm tucking my pelvis to help my abs stay really connected here. You don't really have to tuck the pelvis, but you do want to keep your abs engaged so that they are supporting you. We're going to inhale on the way down, exhale, squeeze up. You can hold it at the top for just a second. And then come back down with control. So it's a controlled fall. Notice how my elbows aren't moving. They're staying in the same place, so they're not going out or up. So it's okay if your hands don't go as high as mine. You just want to keep those elbows tight. Then we have our narrow overhead press. So point the elbows in front of you. Exhale, knuckle punch. Notice how what we're not doing is arching the back and pressing overhead so far that we have this like crazy archer reaching back behind. And we also don't want to put the weights right in front unless your shoulders are really tight and that's the only thing that's accessible for you. We really want to have this overhead reach So if you aren't able to stack it overhead, then try a lighter weight or even no weight, and until you can get that nice and aligned, because it's going to help reduce pressure on your joints, the joints that we don't want to have pressure on. So we can pause there and go back to the same thing again for 1 or 2 more sets. Or if you're ready, we'll move on to our next set, which is back fly, chest fly, and wide overhead press. So with the back fly, it's like the row, but we're gonna just let it come down a little bit and then open it up. You don't have to go as high as I am, but we want to open out about shoulder height, keeping the back flat and pulling the elbow away or the shoulder away from the ear. You can do this with 2 at a time, but I'm showing 1 at a time for you if you are new to this movement. It should feel like a nice light burning sensation in the shoulder blade area, the back of the shoulder. And we want to exhale to squeeze it out, inhale to reset. Same thing other side. So you can see what I'm doing here with my back, keeping it nice and neutral, pulling the weight slightly back and then opening it out to the side. And you'll want to fight any rotation in the hips or in the shoulders. Try to keep everything facing forward towards the floor. Just like the 2-arm row, my gaze is down, but I'm not tucking the chin. I'm keeping the neck and head in line with the spine. Keep exhaling to squeeze. Inhale to reset. Then we're going to grab the next weight and stand forward. We're going to keep thumbs up, palms up, but instead of a bicep curl, we're going to do a chest fly. So you're going to squeeze those dumbbells towards each other. You can even bring them to touch if you'd like in front, as long as your shoulders don't feel like they're pinching. And keep your weights about as high as your shoulders. Don't go much higher than that, especially if you're doing them together, 2 at a time like this. You want to squeeze them towards the center line of your body and then out towards your hip. And you should start to feel the front of your shoulder and your chest. Then we have wide overhead presses. So just like the narrow ones, except the elbows are opening out to the side. We don't want the weights to run away. So keep them stacked over the shoulders here. And wrists are rolling forward, so knuckles up towards the ceiling, just like Wonder Woman. Keep pushing up. Inhale to reset. Try to bring it all the way down to your shoulders if you can, and then push it straight back up. You can bring your feet together like mine are here, but if you'd like a wider stance, that is totally fine. Keep breathing in and out. That breath is really important. So we're going to go back to the beginning, tucking the core nice and tight. Back is flat. Here I'm demonstrating the 2-arm back fly. So I like to think about pushing my chest forward as I'm squeezing my shoulder blades, keeping the shoulders pulling away from the ears, super, super important. And make sure your breath is moving with you. Grip the floor with your feet. So the outside edges of your feet are kind of pushing away from each other. So you have this nice engagement all the way through your legs, and you'll feel it in your core too. Next up, we have the chest fly. So I'm turning sideways so you can see we're not arching the back, keeping the spine neutral and rolling the shoulders away from the ears. We're going to push the hands forward and towards each other, just about shoulder height, maybe a tiny bit higher if that feels good. And then we're going to inhale, bring it back. Try not to rock forward and back too much. There's going to be a slight motion here, but we're not just swinging the arms. If it feels like it's way too easy, you probably need a heavier weight. Make sure you're exhaling and inhaling to come back. And the last movement, we're going to stand up, pull those elbows wide. So you can see this better here. I'm rotating the knuckles forward, keeping the spine in line, pushing straight overhead. The biceps come by the ears. My gaze is forward. I have really open shoulders, so when I do this, it naturally reaches a little further back. Don't feel like you have to do that or that it's necessarily ideal. That's just what feels good for my body. Just think about pushing straight up if you can. Knuckle punch the ceiling and make sure that we're not arching the back and that your abs are tight. And then you're done. We're going to stretch those hands and shoulders and arms. So we're going to reach forward, pull the fingers back towards your body and push through your wrist and your forearm. So you should feel those tendons in your forearm start to wake up a bit. You can hold that 30 to 60 seconds if you'd like, and then switch sides. Make sure you're still breathing here, cooling down. And then we're going to stretch open with the abs and the shoulders, and then forward. So the outside of your shoulders, your delts, and your upper back in a nice stretch. So we're pushing the palms together, but we've crossed the arms. We're going to do the same thing on the other side with the other arm forward. If that doesn't make sense, it's okay. Just put your palms together and round your shoulders forward. That's the main idea. And then we're going to pull one arm across the body, stretch out the triceps. Don't forget to relax your jaw and keep breathing. And then we'll do the same thing for the other side. Check in on your neck, make sure you're not holding anything too tight. And then reach up and over with that elbow, and then you can guide it a little bit further. So getting a nice stretch in the lats, the muscles underneath the armpits. You could even tilt to the side like I'm doing here if that feels good. And again, we're still breathing here. And the same thing on the other side. Reach up and over, grab that elbow, gently pull it to the side. And stretch and breathe. Hold it until you are ready to come out of it, and then you are done, my friend. Thanks for joining me today.